first and share. All right, part two of this class.
Go ahead.
All right. So we were on the ethical representations. Before I move on to strategies to get in front of them and talk to them, do any of you have any questions up to this point? And feel free to talk.
I'm all good. I'm following along.
All right. Is everybody good? All right, perfect. All right. So the biggest challenge that we all have is how to effectively reach people that are hurting. Would we agree with that? Like, how do we find them? Okay. Well, there is a lot of people that already are in the 30, 60, and 90-day late status already. So right now, you can actually get with your title representatives. They can actually pull lists. I believe a lot of mortgage brokers can pull lists to let you know the 30, 60, and 90-day lates. Now, you are going to be tempted to find these people's phone numbers and call them. You're going to be tempted to do that. Do not do it because they're not going to talk to you on the phone and you're not going to build trust on the phone. You're not going to do it. So here's what I would like to say. There's actually two steps to this that will be very, very effective for you. You can send them a handwritten note. Okay, you can send them like a little handwritten letter. Now, do you have to write every single one? No, you can write it in your own handwriting. You can actually print a whole bunch of them in blue ink or purple ink or whatever and send them out to them. Just letting them know, listen, I am a professional that can help you. I just want to help you with your options. Now, in the master class, of course, I give you scripts. Okay, I give you exactly what you should be putting on a handwritten note that you're leaving on their door, what you should be mailing them. Like I have that all in scripts. But for this purpose, you guys can come up with it. Okay. Bottom line is you just need to say hello. My name is Tina Valiant. I'm with such and such brokerage, and I'm doing a neighborhood outreach for all of the homeowners that are in the same situation as you that are falling behind in their mortgage. I want to be of help to you. I want to be of service, and you want to make sure that you use help and today several times in your correspondence with them. Help and today. Help and today. Time is of the essence because they need to understand that the longer they go, the less help options they're going to be able to have. So you also want to make sure that you tell them in your correspondence, I am not trying to buy your home. It's very important that you highlight that. I am not trying to buy your home because every other person that is reaching out to them, I want you guys to understand the investors and the predators out there, the vultures, they all have the same lists. These homeowners are getting bombarded by vultures that want to buy their property. Bombarded. They're getting offers mailed to them. They're getting bombarded with phone calls. They're getting bombarded with people showing up at their door. They're getting bombarded with pre-printed postcards and letters saying, let us buy your home. We know you're in distress. We're here to help. They're not there to help. They just want a good deal on the property. They need somebody that they can look eye to eye, face to face, and see that you're genuinely compassionate to their situation, that you truly want to help them figure it out. So what's going to happen is a lot of times if you go door knock, and if Bonnie was in here, she would tell you, we used to door knock in several counties and she was part of my door knocking team. She was, and she would go out with me and we would all door knock in different areas throughout Orlando and surrounding areas. And we would leave handwritten notes on their door that we would tape to their door backwards with the same verbiage that I'm telling you guys. I'm not here to try and buy your property. I really want to try to help you. I'm doing a neighborhood outreach. Please call me because time is of the essence. I want to sit down with you. I want to try to help you figure out what to do. You have options. And I would put you have options in all caps. You have options. Let me help. My phone rang off the hook. ring off the hook. They would call me, I'd set an appointment. Now, I would not do these conversations with them over the phone. I would say, okay, when can I come and sit down with you? When can I come and meet with you to go over all of your options? Because I want to sit down face to face with them. Now, what I want you guys to understand is you genuinely are going to be the first person that they have actually admitted to that they are in trouble. I can't tell you how many times I sat at these tables and I always had tissue in my bag. And I would sit down and I would say, okay, so before we move forward with your options, I need to understand what happened. How did you find yourself in this situation? What happened? And then I would shut my mouth and I would let them talk. And almost every single time, male or female, tears would start to flow because they just needed to get it out. They just needed to talk. And I would pull out my tissue and we would sit there and they would tell me everything that happened. And so, yes, these consultations take a little bit longer. Usually it takes about an hour for them to get it all out. And then you can start saying, okay, well, let's see what we can do. Let's see what our options are. And that's when you start to lead them down a path of which option is best for them. The compassion and the empathy, but those handwritten notes and that handwritten correspondence, that is what is going to get them to call you. And I used to ask them all the time, why did you call me? I know you've been contacted by a lot of different people. What made you call me? And they said, I don't know. The note you left me just seemed so personal and so genuine. Like I just knew that you would be the one to help me. Now, they may not answer the door if you go knock on their door. That's okay. You just leave the handwritten
Hey,
note,
Eva.
tape it backwards, and you move forward. And then
How
they'll,
are you? Good, good. How's your program going up there?
whoa, who is that?
Good.
I
Okay.
think Eric.
Okay, got it. Eric, I muted you. So, does anybody have, and I'm going to stop sharing this for a moment. Does anybody have trepidation about knocking on these sellers' doors? Be honest.
No, I've
I
actually
always
left the
do.
letters like you've mentioned before. This was a few years back. I want to say it was around COVID time. So it was a different market for that kind of style. So I'm super happy that you reiterated that because it was definitely for the privacy. And I also actually, just a tidbit, I sent a market report where it just on the back had like a little, this is what's going on in Deltona. And I placed those on the doors on the left and the right hand side for a psychological. So that way they didn't feel like it was a quote unquote notice.
Mhm.
And they would, oh, okay, that person didn't target. Although on the other side of that letter was some similar wording, Tina.
Mhm. 100%. So yeah, you can put in like a little marketing brochure, some information, some data, blah, blah, blah. Maybe it's even data about how many homes are distressed in that area, right? So they can see like you're legitimately doing a neighborhood outreach. You're not just targeting them. You're actually going to everybody in the neighborhood that's in the same situation as them because nobody ever wants to feel alone. Nobody ever wants to feel alone, ever. Okay, I don't know what's happening. Zoom's being weird. I don't know what's happening. I'm gonna have to fix my Zoom when we get off of this. So my point is that the compassion, okay? Don't be afraid to knock on their door. Now, I will tell you there was a couple of scenarios where the people were like 60, 90 days late on their mortgage and they thought we were from the bank. So they were a little angry at first. They weren't very nice. And then I was like, no, we're not from the bank. We're not from the bank. No, we're here to help you. We're helping you fight the bank. We're gonna help you fight them. So they were like, oh, okay. So, they're scared. So that you never know what they're going to do at first. Okay. Also, once you do make the appointment with them, especially you guys in Florida, you guys have forewarned. Go ahead and look up if they have a criminal background before you go over and have a meeting at their house. Now, you guys in Arizona, we got to put something in place for you to be able to look that up too, because for goodness sakes, either that or like you need to take a buddy with you, because you don't know when you're walking into somebody's house to have this appointment, what you're actually walking into. I never walked into an appointment alone with a distressed homeowner. I never did. I always had somebody with me. So, what was that, Esme? Esme said there is what? There's something like that here. Okay, well, that's good to know because right now it's only something that everybody can pay for. Everybody in Florida gets that for free with their, what is it? With your board or with your MLS or what do you get that with?
With our association board.
Yeah.
Our association here said they're never doing that for us.
Yeah, but guess what I found out?
What?
If you go on to Forewarn to see who you're meeting, and then you tell the seller or the landlord that the person has a felony, you just violated the code of ethics and you're not allowed to do that. So awesome. I didn't know you couldn't do that. It's only for you to know that you're not going to get killed. So please be aware of that. I just found that out. I was like, well, then what's the point of it? But you're just not allowed to share that information, which is dumb. But okay.
Yeah, you're not allowed to tell anybody if somebody has 68 counts of, criminal history or whatever. Like, isn't that weird? You would think you'd be able to share that information.
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't want your landlord to rent to that tenant. So
Yeah.
figure it out another way, I guess.
Yeah. So here's how
Sign language. No, I don't know.
So here's how your consultation process would work. Let's say you went, you knocked on the door. Okay, first you sent them out a mailing or whatever, and then you went and you knocked on the door because now they've seen your face a couple of times. And you guys remember what my rule is as far as how many times it takes for them to see your face before you become a trusted person?
3.
3 times. 3 times. So let's say you send out, a little handwritten postcard to them. And it has your face on it. And then let's say you send out a little handwritten note that has your business card in it. And then you go and you actually knock on their door and either they open the door or you leave them something on there with your business card again that has your face on it. They've seen you 3 times now. They don't even maybe recognize why they've seen you 3 times or why now you look familiar to them, but they just know that you look familiar to them. Now, at that point, they're going to call you. Now, this is where you as agents need to get really, really good at answering phone calls coming in that you don't know the number. Because 9 times out of 10, they're not going to leave you a message. You got to answer the phone. So they're going to call you. And in that initial conversation, you just need to reemphasize you're not buying their home. Okay. You want to help them and you want to sit down with them and go over all of their options with them. So that's when you're going to go to their home and in-home meeting, you're going to review their options and then you're going to come up with your action plan with them that day. Now, when you do go to their in-home meeting, of course, you need to know what comps are, but you're not going to pull out a listing agreement and you're not going to pull out your comps. All you're going to pull out is a financial affidavit, which I have in the master class. You also have a complimentary loan modification guide in case they do qualify for a loan modification. You need to know how to qualify them, whether they qualify or not, and then you are not to do it for them. Because I don't want you negotiating with short sales, and you definitely are not doing loan modifications. Definitely are not doing loan modifications. Guys, you cannot legally get paid for either. You cannot. You are not going to get paid from the short sale lender for negotiating a short sale. You are not going to even know exactly how to do that. And Sherry and I just talked about this in another class. If you come down to a short sale and Sherry does negotiate, she takes a 30% referral fee for that, by the way, just so you guys know. She's very, very good. And her and I talk about her negotiations regularly. So she has one right now where we just learned some new stuff yesterday because things are always evolving, always changing. But she had a short sale file this last week where I always tell people you have to call within once it gets assigned to a negotiator. If they need anything on that file, they're going to give you 48 hours and they're not going to call you and tell you that they need it. So she happened to call and they were like, oh yeah, we need that today or we're closing this and you have to start all over again. You don't have time for that, guys. Leave that to people like Sherry, who that's what they're doing. You don't have time to be calling them every single day to find out if it's been assigned to a negotiator and if they have what they're looking for. So please leave it to somebody who they're dedicated to that, is my point. Pay the 30%. Pay the 30%. Okay? So, and I don't get anything from that to promote Sherry for that. I'm telling you, she's very good at what she does. That's what I'm telling you. Okay?
Thank you.
So the action plan. It's the initial phone contact, the in-home meeting, the review the options with them, and then you're going to come up with the action plan as their trusted advisor. Their options are going to be a loan modification, a traditional sale or short sale, or they can also have legal options as far as deed in lieu of foreclosures and other things. But what I need for you guys to understand is that a deed in lieu of foreclosure is a foreclosure. It is a voluntary foreclosure, which means if they do a deed in lieu of foreclosure, they, for the next 10 years, are going to have to answer yes, they've had a foreclosure on anything that they want to buy. It hurts their credit worse than a short sale. So please know and understand that. A loan modification means that they are going to renegotiate the loan that's already in existence. And usually how they do that is, let's say they've been paying on the mortgage for 10 years and it's a 30-year loan. They're going to go in and they're going to maybe lower the interest rate for a couple of years and then it's going to tier back up. And then they're going to reset it at a 30-year mortgage. So they're going to lose the 10 years that they've already been paying in to lower the payment. They're not losing the money that they've already paid in, but they're losing the time. So now no longer do they only have 20 years to pay off their mortgage, they're back to 30 years. And that's how they lower the mortgage payment. And then they take the payments that they're behind and they move them to the back end of the loan. Now, there's private investors out there that they're not even going to do that. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, they're typically going to do that. Okay, but your other types of lenders, they may not. And credit unions are sticklers. They don't fall under the same guidelines on anything. Okay, traditional sale, we all know. Short sale means that the lender is willing to take less for the property than what is owed. And then your short sale negotiator is going to go for what's called a deficiency waiver, where the seller is not going to have to owe the difference. If the deficiency waiver is not present, then it means that the lender has a set period of years where they can actually go after that difference. So you need to know that as well. Leave that to your short sale negotiator, and then they will advise for the seller to seek the advice of an attorney before signing anything. Okay? Does anybody have any questions about their different options? No? Okay,
I
good.
do. Can it's funny that you asked that. Can I
Yes.
tell you another thing I learned yesterday? So I always knew, first of all, Tina and I, my video went off. The seller, by the way, guys, doesn't always have to accept. They can sign the contract. They get the terms of the short sale. They get the approval and it says they owe $10,000 after. They don't have to accept that.
Mm-hmm.
They can back out of it and say, no, I can't, I'm not doing it. And I just submit it again and it comes around, whatever. We also make sure it says the deficiency will be waived, not may, is or will. But listen to this. You know how Tina taught us all to tell stories? So I just learned this story yesterday. I know that if you foreclose, I always tell the sellers, I'm like, look, it's up to you. Talk to your attorney, talk to your accountant. Make sure you say that numerous times. Make sure it's in an email, in writing, not a text. talk to your attorney, talk to your accountant, what the consequences are. And I'm speaking to you guys, not the way necessarily I'm going to speak to customers. So just give me some grace here. It's being recorded. But I do say sometimes, I'm like, listen, if you don't do a short sale and you go into foreclosure, they're going to chase after you for the rest of your natural born life for the difference of what you owe and what they sold it on the courthouse steps. Now, I know that's true. I just got another validation, unfortunately, yesterday, how it's a true story. Real quick. Guy told me, I told him, I said, listen, I don't want you to go, I don't want you to lose your home. I don't want you to have to go into foreclosure, and did all the rest. I said, because anytime you pay a car off, you sell a house, they're going to come get it. He goes, that happened. And I said, what do you mean that happened? He said his mother, and they didn't have great realtors like the listing agent and me. He said, the agent said, just let it go to foreclosure, get on with your life, just move on. This is what they said to the mother. She was $69,000 upside down. She went on with her life. They foreclosed. She bought a new house. Everything's peachy. Now the mother's in her 80s. She goes to sell the house in 2024. And wouldn't you know, the difference between 2009 and 2024 from 69,000 went up to 115,000 because they were tacking on fees and all this. Unfortunately, these people are not sophisticated enough or knowledgeable to get an attorney to fight. The mother goes to sell her now house, and it's a $215,000 quote unquote profit. He told me last year, the bank went knock, knock, knock. You owe us 115 and took 115,000 from her 215,000. Now the mother, who has nothing, they weren't rich. She did a good thing by buying a house. She did the right thing by selling it when she's 80 and she has to go, somewhere else for assisted living, whatever it is. She thought she had 215,000. She has 100 grand. So it's not just an old wives' tale. It's an actual true story that happened, and
Yes.
it was terrible. So he's relieved and motivated.
And credit unions are even worse, even especially on second mortgages. Sherry and I will tell you, we can tell you countless stories, and we will be telling countless stories in the Q&As every week that we have. But I had one client, his second mortgage was with a credit union, and I think it was Navy Federal. And Navy Federal would not let the deficiency go. They would not let it go. And it continued and it continued and it continued to get higher and higher and higher. And because of penalties and whatever. And we fought it in the law office. I think Don just told me that finally he paid it off. Finally, the client paid it off like 2 years ago. He had been fighting it with the attorney for 10 years with Navy Federal, and they would not let it go. Would not let it go. He finally ended up paying them $150,000 from a foreclosure that happened 10 years ago. There's nothing you can do when they get the judgment. That's it. That's it. So here's what I want to say to you guys. There's a lot to know about all of this kind of stuff. It is a continued progressive learning experience. This is not something that I'm going to be able to give you an introduction class and you're going to be able to master. This is something that you need continued support on if you actually want to go down this road. Again, I will tell you, you will never find a type of work in real estate, these types of clients that will stick with you more in your life. I had over 1,000 families that I helped in foreclosure defense with short sale negotiations and loan modifications. I can still to this day tell you every single one of their names, their kids' names, and what happened to get them in the situation that they were in. I personally took it very personal because I had lost my home and I didn't want them to have the same fear that I had, not knowing what I was going to walk up to every single day going home to my kids, whether I was still going to have a home or not. So I became the voice that they didn't have. And all of you can become that voice too. So with that said, I do have a master class. I want you guys to understand it's normally $3.99. The purpose of this class today is not to sell you on this, but I do want to tell you that I do have to charge for this class because I'm going to give continued support for the people who actually want to learn this and excel at it. So you guys, today only for attending this, you get a 50% off of the class, which is regularly $3.99. Your code is let's go, exclamation point. Okay. What you get in that class is 12 full in-depth video lessons, as well as live weekly Q&A Zoom sessions every Tuesday, once a week. They're not required, but I will be there if you need me. Okay. You also get a private Facebook support group where you can go in at any time and ask questions and everybody can jump in. Sherry's already a part of that group. I'm already a part of that group. It's already set up. You will also get the loan modification guide. That is the complimentary guide that you can give people to show them that you're truly there to help. How I would use that guide is I would say, by the way, when I come and meet with you in person, I do have a complimentary loan modification guide to give you in the event that you qualify to save your home. I also have the financial affidavit in there with explanations on how to narrow them down to whether they qualify for a loan modification or not, as well as your seller scripts, your follow-up checklists, and more. So I am going to put the link for that in the chat right now for you guys if you want to participate in that. It is completely self-taught, just so you guys know. It's at your own pace. The 12, you have a year to complete them. Okay. So it's not like, I'm gonna kick you out like 2 weeks later once you've paid for the course or anything like that. It's gonna be there for you. And I'll continue to add more and more into that course that you will have access to. So do you have any questions for me today? And I'm sorry about the Zoom mishap. I don't know what happened with that. And those of you in Age and Accelerate, this class is not in Age and Accelerate, the master class. Okay. Separate.
Yeah, I fought with Tina over a year, like Tina's been saying this for 2 years, and it wasn't me in the beginning when she said, we're not in a distressed market, but that was me 2 years ago. Like, Tina, I don't know what you're talking about. But I did know that those COVID modifications were going to kick in. And then I also knew that the people who weren't paying and the market going down like this would start to suddenly meet the equity that they had would, go down. And you're going to talk to people. One of our agents tried to get this guy he wanted to sell his little condo last year, 120,000. Now he's selling it for 60,000. And the HOA, the condo association, is $700 a month. How's he going to sell a $60,000 condo at $700 a month? Last year, when Vic told him do 120, it would have been better. So, we're not going to say I told you so, but we're going to help them and try to get them out of this.
Well, Sam in Age and Accelerate, and those for you that aren't in Age and Accelerate, this is our normal Age and Accelerate group coaching meeting that we're using right now. Sam in the group had a seller this last week, and we had to negotiate out the deal. It was intense because she didn't realize how close they were to not making a dime on this property. So the offer came in, they needed seller concessions. The buyer's agent wanted 3% compensation. I think Sam was getting 3% compensation. And when you're this close to whether they're going to have to come to the table with cash or not as sellers, like you're literally going dollars and cents, dollars and cents, dollars and cents. And so, Sam was going back and forth with me and she's like, okay, I'm thinking if I do it where, okay, buyer's agent only gets this much compensation. I only take this much compensation. Seller closing cost credits. I talked to the lender. They could only do this much. So I think I got it to where we're at least going to put a few $1,000s in our pocket. And the hope was that they were going to buy another property. We made the deal happen, but they can't buy another property. They're moving in with their parents to try to build up cash again in order to buy a property down the road. So, okay. So in Alethea just had one like that too. And then Dana here in Arizona, we just had one last week as well. Literally it came down to, okay, Dana, so the offer is this. It was almost a full price offer. They were $5,000 less, $10,000 less than full price asking, but they needed 3% seller closing costs or buyer closing costs. They needed the agent wanted their compensation. She got her compensation. By the time it was all said and done, they were going to be in the negative $2,000 a month or $2,000 at the end of the day. wasn't going to work. I was literally going back and forth with her in math. My boyfriend was dying. He was like, wow, like that was some serious math you guys were doing back and forth. Because I'm like, okay, so if we raise it to $5,000 over asking, to be able to get them their 2.5% closing cost credit that the lender said that they have to get. Okay, so if we do that, we still have some money that we need to make up. All right, so if you give the buyer's agent 2%, just think of it, every 0.5% that we can save is $1,800. Okay, so if we can get the buyer's agent to accept 2% and you go down to 2.5%, then, and we only give them 2.5% closing cost credit, we can make it work to where we're still putting about $4,200 in the seller's pocket. The deal did not go through. They couldn't make the numbers work. So out of all three that I helped negotiate last week like that, only one of them went under contract. And what that comes down to is setting the proper expectations up front with your seller that we're going to have some heavy negotiations at the end potentially. Because
That brings it right back to the beginning of the conversation. In 2008, I tell the story over and over. The guy, we actually closed for what he owed, and then there were $14,000 in closing costs that had to be covered, and I had to ask the bank if they would pay for it. And
are you there, Sherry? You froze.
what?
You froze
I did?
right at
Can
the
you
end.
see me? Okay. Oh, so can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so he goes, I go, what the hell's a short sale? And my old broker was like, why are you going to give 1.5? He told me, he's like, just do it, which was, stupid at the time. Why would I ever do something like that? That was ridiculous. But the point was we didn't know what it was. Now we know what it is, but now we're watching the prices meet it. And just like you're seeing, and unfortunately, with our compensation and this and the seller can say, we're going to have to do a lot of squeezing to just make it to avoid a short sale. Because if it's only a couple thousand off, figure it out. I highly suggest we figure it out.
We figure it out, but like how Chris is saying, well, this seller had to, take out a personal loan and come to the table with $7,000. Well, at the end of the day, if they couldn't have done that, it could have been turned into a short sale and would have gotten approved pretty damn quickly because it was close to retail, right? And then I do want you guys to understand that lenders, the servicing companies, they pay buyers agents and listing agents. They pay our compensation. So remember that too. So if it's a short sale, you're going to get paid. They're not fighting for it in most cases because they understand that we all have to get paid. So it's a lot easier than fighting with the listing agent for our buyer's agent compensation or fighting, like, okay, we're at the end and we're trying to figure out $7,000. So I'm going to lower mine to 1%. You lower yours to 1%. Just make it a darn short sale at that point so that everybody gets paid and so that the seller can get out of it and not have to go take a personal loan and still owe money.
And
When
I
you're
forgot
that close to, oh, sorry,
Go
Sherry.
ahead, Patrick. Go ahead, Pete.
You can also ask the bank when you're really close if they will forego any of the late penalties and charges, and that will help out greatly too. Sometimes those are a couple $1,000s, depending on how late they are. Of course,
Yeah.
the later they are, the worse it is.
But what if they're not late and we're still underwater?
You can still ask the bank to come around and see what's going on, see if
Yeah.
they can help you in any way. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There
No,
are
Pete's right
options and
because
everybody can pitch in too, but here's what I don't want. I don't want for you guys to be working for free.
Yeah.
Right.
You're not working for free, people. Okay, I'll out of the cut because okay, and I'm gonna say this to Chris Noonan over there, which I love your business photo, by the way, Chris. All right, I'm gonna say this to Miss Chris Noonan over there because you're like the sweetest person ever, and she's come to me before where she's like, I don't know, they're just like they're not gonna have any money, and I need to make sure that they can get out of this, so I'm gonna lower my compensation, and I'm like, you're not lowering it to that level. We're going to have to figure it out a different way because you guys earn your money. You earn your money. So,
We didn't do this to them. As heartless as it sounds, it's not, this is not our circus, you know,
Yep.
we're getting them out of it. And one last thing of what Tina said, remember when she said, towards the end, she said that when you help these people, you'll be the customer for life. There's different rules and regulations, but when I did the people across the street from me, I got them out of it. 2 years to the day, I sold them another house. The day after, the lender said they could buy another house in 2 years if we went the 2 years and a day past when they got out of that. And they called me a month before. They're like, "We want to buy another house." I'm like, "We'll check with the lender." The lender said, "Yeah, just don't sign any contracts until this date." And I said, "Okay." So we waited 2 weeks. We went house hunting, and I sold them their next house. So,
Yep.
because they were grateful.
Yep. 100%. So I hope this helps you guys today. I don't want you to be afraid of this market. I will tell you right now that I have agents that I negotiated for in 2008, 2009 that have not been able to find purpose since then. And they're like, wow, okay, here we go. It's back. They both called me this week. It's back. We're back. Like we get to go make a difference again. So,
Wow.
and they were very successful in that market. My friend Nicholas never had less than 28, 29 files in my office at all times for short sale. So go kill it, you guys. We're here as a resource and sign up for the darn class. All right. Just do it so that I can be a resource for you. Bye, everybody.
Yay.
Bye.
Thanks, Tina.
Yep.
Thank you. Tina, let's go into your